Welcome to the Real Chili Podcast.
And the Golden Eagles of Marquette University in Milwaukee are bound for the Final Four for only the third time ever.
5 seconds left. Marquette down by one, trying to avoid the upset. Blue the drive, the left hand. It's good. 1 second to play. Vander Blue has put Marquette in front by one.
And I want to win every day as basketball players, as students, and I want to win every day, most importantly, as people.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Real Chili Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Lavender. Today, we're excited to bring you part 2 of our interview with Jerel McNeal. There's a ton of great stuff in this interview. Some of my favorites include, what exactly was Jimmy Butler like as a sophomore who had just walked onto Marquette's campus? What type of work did Jerel put in to see a big leap in his performance from junior to senior year? And of course, what was the beginning of the Buzz Williams tenure like at Marquette? Did the players expect Buzz to get the job? And was Buzz the same guy as an assistant coach that he was as a head coach? A lot of really interesting things from Jerel in this second part of our interview with him. And without any further delay, let's get back into the interview with Jerel McNeal. The dust settles from that, right? So clearly an emotional time, and like looking back on it now, you think how young you were, right? Or we all were, you're just a kid, and we have that perspective now, but the dust settles from that. Are you and your teammates looking at each other like, oh, it's going to be Buzz, or we think they're bringing in someone from the outside? What is your kind of immediate thought when you start thinking about who's coming in next?
Oh, man, it was, that was really the scariest thing for us, because we were thinking like, man, we've done this for 3 years. We've played in the biggest games. We played against the best competition. Next year is going to be like our defining year. We're all going to be seniors. This is our last run now. We got the talent, we got the squad, we got the personnel to make a deep run to get it done and try to win some championships or something. So, the biggest thing was, we weren't sure what we were going to get next, so it was like we were nervous. Like we just talked about, the rumors were swirling constantly, because I want to say it was like a good, man, I'm not even sure how long it was. It felt like forever, because from our standpoint, we were kind of all in disarray. Yeah. So I don't know if it was like 2 weeks or what it was, but we went a while where it was just like, we went from having, like I said, like your coaching staff being kind of like your parental figures that they're, kind of like looming, but you're still independent. So we went from having that to not having anything. Uh-huh. So I would say it was a fun 2 weeks just off of the court, living wise, because we were a little all in disarray. Like, we didn't have any coordinators, anybody setting up workouts. We had no individuals. We weren't. We had nobody there to check in guys to make sure they were going to study hall anymore, because we were kind of like, we didn't know what we were going for who was going to be the next head coach of the program.
So it's like a vacation, but kind of a scary vacation at the same time.
Exactly. So we were like, we were kind of enjoying like our freedom. Like, okay, well, the crazy thing about it is like you get so used to your routine, and we got such great guys. This type of thing you don't even think about now, but it's just like we were still working out and going to the gym every day and doing stuff together, like normal team stuff. It just became a part of our culture. It was just like we had nobody there telling us that we had to do it. So, like I said, it was a little bit fun and scary, like you said, at the same time. We had all these different rumors swirling, but I for sure had no idea that it was going the route of going to Buzz. It was funny because Buzz was an assistant with Coach Crean.
Right.
Most of the other guys that were assistants on the staff that year left to go to Indiana with him. A couple other did some different things or whatever. But so it was just like we were pretty much writing off the fact that it was going to be somebody that was already on the current staff. Although initially I was thinking like the obvious choice was going to be Coach Buckley. He had been to Marquette. This was his second time there. He had been a head coach before, and if you ever speak to anybody about him, man, like one of the best human beings you could ever be around. Intense, but great guy, man. I have so much respect for and love for Coach Buckley, man. So we were all kind of keeping our fingers crossed in the back of our mind, like maybe Coach Buckley would take the spot. But he actually, was at a point in his life where I don't think he wanted to be a head coach again at that point in time. He was more comfortable being the next guy up and helping Coach Crean in Indiana. Right. So he went on to Indiana with him. And the funny thing about it is my best friend and my old high school teammate, Maurice Acker, right. He went to Ball State first before he came over to Marquette, and Coach Buckley was his head coach at Ball State. Wow. So he had recruited Maurice out of high school. I had a great relationship with him. I had been knowing him for a long time as well, and he had coached at Marquette already before. So we were all keeping our fingers crossed for that. Didn't work out. I was kind of surprised to see Buzz was going to be the guy that got the job. But at the same time, I was super happy because throughout his first year at the job and coming over my junior year and working and being an assistant for Coach Crean, me and him developed a special relationship already. I don't think everybody gets the idea that sometimes things are new for coaches as well. He was coming in working for Coach Crean. He wasn't really sure what to expect, what the culture was going to be like. I'm sure you guys are familiar with Buzz, another a completely different type of personality. A more southern guy, but smart as a whip, man. Pays attention to everything, really detailed. But, just a different personality. So he wasn't necessarily used to, the culture and the way we did things and kind of like the other guys that he had coached under. And he had been the head coach as well already at New Orleans. So it was just it was a mesh of different personalities. And me and him got really close to each other. He used to mess with me every day in practice and constantly.
It seems like you guys both kind of came out of your shell that year. I don't know, if Buzz was more reserved when he was assistant and then, his personality really showed, once he started being a coach. For you, even just your game developed a lot as a senior, and the team offensively really took off. You were, a 30% three-point shooter for your first 3 years, and then really added that to your game, taking it up to 40% your senior year. So, how much of that was just you developing your game, or how much was it of Buzz helping you develop your game?
Yeah, it was a combination, a little bit of everything. And just like you said about coming out of your shells, it's funny that you say that though, because Buzz was really like that. As an assistant, he was a lot quieter. He didn't talk much. He kind of went about it. He did his job, but it was to kind of explain it in a way for me that's easier. For me, it was Buzz talked to you if he felt like you were ready to hear something that was gonna be a little bit more raw and uncut, and not as emotional, not as complex, kind of cut to the chase, straight to the point. I'm not gonna BS you. This is what it is, and I love that about him. And he started off doing it with me, and I was one of the better players on the team. And all the guys had enough respect for me when I was just y'all don't understand. He get on your nerves. I was but he always tell you the truth. I was it's not always the way you want to hear it. It's not. You may not take it in the best way. You may not be so receptive to it. I was but it's always the truth. And it got to the point where I really I fell in love with his personality and the way that he used to talk. So it was okay, he used to talk like that, and I kind of started giving it right back to him. And we just used to have our little banter, and we developed a relationship where it was we were a lot more similar in our personalities and styles than we would have ever thought. And it was great to play for him. And like you said, just with the outbreak offensively the senior year, man, a lot of that credit, like I said, goes back to Coach Buckley as well. Mm-hmm. I went through a little bit of just a little bit of a funk in the early half to mid part of my junior year, I would say, just individually. offensively. I was one of the guys that the team depended on at that point offensively. Obviously, I wasn't the same player that I was my senior year yet, but my bread and butter offensively was like I always had a great pull-up jumper. Had a good first step. I was able to get to the rim, and I was a really good finisher around the rim. And, the more you go on and the more college games you play, the more time people see you and the more scouts they're able to do. So it was like a lot of people started really to play off of me a little bit more and try to force me to take outside three-point shots, which wasn't at the time like my forte. Like I wasn't a terrible shooter, but it was like I was a miss and make guy. Like sometimes I'm like, if I get hot, okay, yeah, you got to guard him. But if he misses a couple, he doesn't want to sit out there and shoot threes the whole game. So he's gonna try to come to the basket at some point, or he's gonna stop shooting them. So Coach Buckley took me aside my junior year, and I was going through a little bit of a funk, and he just started telling me about just how he was like you to the point of your career here. He was like where, if you add one more thing and you just focus on this one thing with me and come to work with me every day, he was like, you will be unstoppable. And the thing for him was just me putting in the time and the reps of just shooting the basketball, period. I was always a workoutaholic. I did a lot of stuff in the gym. I was always in the gym. But he was like, the one part of your game that missing. He was like, because he's like, I see you in there, you working, you doing stuff. He's like, but I just want you to slow it down and just break down and focus on your shooting. And each and every day, he's like, I want you to get repetition. I want you to build habits to a point where you're so comfortable that you're not gonna feel like it's a shot on the court that you can't make, So he got me into this, and if anybody know, all the guys that know me know that I'm not a morning person. I hate. I'm sure you guys experienced, but those 8 a.m.s in college are brutal.
I intentionally avoided those 8 a.m.
The attendance wasn't great,
especially during the long winters. If you had a bit of a walk, so it was just like going into from that point on in my junior year all the way through the rest of my career. When Coach Buckley was there, we started a routine. I would get up every morning before my first class, and we would go in the gym. I'll walk over to the aisle or drive over to the aisle and meet him at the gym, and we were sitting there and just be me, him, and sometimes a rebounder or two, and I would make anywhere from 200 to 400 shots every morning before I even started my day and started going to class. We would do form shooting. I would make at least 100 shots just form shooting, and then we would work our way out and just shoot the basketball, just constant and repeated repetition. And it didn't. And like for him, he understood me and players so well that one of the first things he told me, he was like, all right, now I know we've been doing this for a while. And so the first thing we were during the middle of the season when we first started doing it, he was like, I know you're going to feel like you want to come out and show off your new toy in the games. He was like, but he was like, he's like, you excited to do it. He's like, but he was like, don't worry. He's like, if it doesn't translate right away, like if you don't start making every shot that you take right away, he was like, don't panic. He was like, it's a process. We just gonna continue to pound the rock and keep doing it every day. And eventually it started paying off in that second half of the season. My game really took off, and I think it really started to show more, like I would say like the last 8 to 10 games of the season, and leading all the way into that Stanford game. And from that point on, man, coming back into my senior year, after I realized that the work that I put in was going to translate to that, it created me offensively to be a completely different player, because I felt like I had everything else. It was just like, okay, now you can't leave me open from three at all either. So it's like, okay, you got to guard me honest and straight up, and that just gave me supreme confidence offensively as well. And then being with Buzz, he had enough, I don't know, like wherewithal, like as a coach. A lot of guys could come into that situation and try to make it their own. he didn't do that. He knew that we were already a well-built, well-oiled machine, and that all he had to pretty much do was put us in the right situations to be successful, and let us, take us as far as we can go. And he did a great job of that. Mm-hmm. And so he gave us all supreme confidence. Wes had an unbelievable year. He went.
Yeah, it was an amazing year for Wes.
His junior to senior year was, really more impressive. I feel like than my transition from junior to senior year, because he was playing with supreme confidence. Mm-hmm. And once you got him playing like that, and me playing like that, didn't do anything but help us all, because it was like, okay, so who you gonna guard? Who you gonna run the extra defender at?
Right.
Who you gonna leave? Who you gonna leave on the perimeter? You know what I mean? Who you gonna match up with who? And then we still had Neek, and then by this time, Lazar had become an integral part of what we were doing as well. So man, we were.
And Jimmy was on that team too, even.
Exactly, and it's obviously not the Jimmy that everybody knows and loves now, but boy, did he come a long way as well. But he was also a huge part of our team, man. Just a tough kid. He was young still, trying to figure it all out like we were doing when we first got there. But boy, I saw the potential in him, and I used to constantly just tell him, like, man, you got a chance to be really good. Just his demeanor and his humbleness and his attitude, man. It all speaks to where he is and what he's able to do to this day. So, great story, though, man. Great guy.
For the fans out there, Jimmy Butler was 0 for 4 on 3-point shots in Jerel's senior year. To tell you something about where his game went.
4-3. Did not want to. I've never seen that much of a transition. Did not want to shoot the basketball. Told me that on several occasions. Like, that ain't. I do not want to. I don't want to shoot this thing. He was an unbelievable. He was a really good defender. Unbelievable college rebounder, man. One of the best and strongest rebounders, and he loved to finish around the rim and get to the foul line. But that was one of the things that he became great at. I felt like in college that carries him to this day, man. He gets to that foul line, he gets fouled, he creates contact, and he's still a really good rebounder and has become an elite defender and scorer as well. So,
I just want to ask one more overall question, just about the entire tenure, and that's, it's a lot easier now, like 8-10 years removed from all this, to have some perspective on it and how impressive it was. I mean, this was like, we hammered it home, but this Big East conference was stacked, and you guys had a winning record every year in the Big East. But at the same time, didn't really have too much success in the tournament. Never made it to the second weekend. Do you look back and view this as a successful 4 years? I know some fans kind of got frustrated, like, these guys were amazing as freshmen, and that we should be in the championship game by their senior year. I mean, what kind of regrets or success do you think that you guys had during your time there?
Obviously, you have regrets because there's nothing more than what we wanted than to have a deep run, or to that was always our ultimate goal, to try to get the school back to another Final Four. We felt like we had the talent, the ability to do it. We had the guys to do it. But it's basketball, and things year in, year out, man. Every year the story's gonna be different. The circumstances are gonna change constantly, and freshman year we weren't completely ready, while we still had a great team, and I felt like we had the talent on that team if we were a little bit more experienced as young guys to get there. But it didn't happen. Against Alabama sophomore year, I felt like we had a pretty good chance of making a run. I broke my hand at the end of that year. Wasn't able to play in the postseason, first round exit.
Michigan State.
We were actually at that game.
Oh, we were.
We're like, where is the offense, man?
Yeah, that was one of the ones I tried to delete from my memory, actually. So, yeah, it was an ugly game, and it was even worse having to sit there and watch it. Then junior year, you got the one shining moment with Lopez, the shot or whatever. So,
God.
Yeah, that didn't work out. That was a chance to get us to the Sweet 16. Then senior year, you had Dominique actually break his foot the second half of that season, and while we were rolling, we were I want to say, a top 10 team for the better part of the entire year.
Yeah.
One of the best teams in the Big East. I thought we were going to win the conference title that year until we came down the home stretch and he broke his foot. So that kind of threw a wrench in our thing as well. And then we had another heartbreaking loss to Missouri there to get to the Sweet 16. But all in all, it was disappointing for us because I felt like we never reached our full potential and accomplished some of the things that we had the ability to accomplish. But like I said, it's a process, man, and it lets you know more and more, especially with sports and in basketball. Nothing is really promised. Yeah. Guys are always going to go down. Guys are always going to get injured. It's constantly evolving and changing. You every year you're losing guys to graduation that are seniors. Every year we had guys leave that that are going to transfer or feel like it's there could be a better situation for them. You're going to have new freshmen coming in constantly as well, and always a recruiting trail. So, all in all, I felt like it was a very successful 4 years in my opinion, man. We took a program before we got there. Let's not forget that it was a program that hadn't been to the tournament at all in a while. And this was in the Conference USA, and we were coming over and turning this program into a national powerhouse. Being in the Big East, making the transition to the Big East, to start getting more highly touted players, a bigger recruiting market, and all of that. So we made it to the tournament every single year. We were competitive every single year. We were ranked, I want to say, 3 out of those 4 years in the top 25 for the better part of all the seasons. And, to this day, we still have some classic Marquette games and classic memories. So, man, all in all, it was a great 4 years, in my opinion.
So you're currently living in Tel Aviv, is that right?
Yep.
And do you get an opportunity to watch the current? Do you get Fox Sports 1, or do you get a chance to watch Marquette, the current team, at any point?
Well, first off, like I said, man, I'm a sports junkie and obviously a Marquette junkie. So I have consistent around an hour, 24-hour updates with all of my teams in Marquette basketball, who will always be one of them. So a lot of the times when they play games, it's a little bit too late here. Yeah. But luckily for them and for myself, I'm a bit of a night owl, so I don't do too much sleeping at night. I like to stay up and watch a lot of sports and stuff like that. So I nap during the day still. Some things never change. I nap during the day still, and I stay up a little bit later at night. And I actually got a chance to watch them play a couple times this year already. And when I can't watch them, I'm always following them and getting the alerts and things like that. So I've seen them play a lot and a lot more than I usually get a chance to this year.
So with the defensive mentality that you bring, and you said you've seen a few games and obviously seen some of the stats. So you saw 52 from Marcus. I mean, Marcus Howard, I think, is averaging right now 21.5 points per game. Rousey's like somewhere around 20. When you look at those guys, if you're on the court, what are you trying to do to defend them? What is your best recipe? If you're back and you're 22 years old, what's your best recipe for trying to slow those guys down?
Oh, man, I kind of don't want to say it because I want those guys to keep getting as many buckets as possible. But no, in all seriousness, and it's actually kind of funny because Coach Wojo who's done a phenomenal job, I feel like, with the program and just getting us going back in the right direction and continuing our great tradition. He does a great job of getting us all back over the summertime and being able to be around those young guys. And we do. I'm sure you guys know we've been doing the TBT basketball team, the alumni Golden Eagles team, for the last couple of years. So he's set it up now to where they open up the facility to us for. I'll say we usually have like a little 3 or 4 day binge out there where we all get to come back to Milwaukee. They get us all in town and we get set up with a place to stay and we work out and try to get ready for the little TBT thing. But it's really good for us and those young guys because we kind of intertwine with them and we play pickup with these guys to try to play get ourselves back in shape, which is really our off season for them. And in college, you're never really in the off season. You're always in great shape and always playing or doing something. So those guys kind of, keep us young and keep us fresh. But we get a chance to play against them. And I'll tell you, those Rousey and Howard, man, two really talented guards, man. Two of the best I've seen in a while offensively. Both of them pose a great threat because they can really shoot the ball from anywhere on the floor and fill it up, especially from the outside. Defensively, when I'm guarding them with guys like them, especially with Rousey, the biggest thing with somebody like that, you want to try to make them put the ball on the deck as much as possible. With those type of guys, and especially because of their size, I want to get all up into them. I know that they're quick enough and they're good enough to maybe be able to go past me for a dribble or two, but I'm going to force them to take the ball off of the three-point line, dribble the ball inside the arc. Usually like to try to funnel them to another big guy at the rim or make them make plays for other guys on the team. Me personally, that's the defensive scouting report. I'm going to make those guys go to the rim and try to finish over bigger, more athletic players. They're not the biggest, right. You know what I mean? And then they don't have a lot of, not to say that they don't have a lot of options, but, I think the scouting report to beat Marquette is to try to slow those guys down, dog them all over the floor, and make the rest of the guys beat you. I think going forward, there's going to be the scouting report defensively for them. So, obviously, they've been doing a good job of those still just pushing through all of that and getting us enough points offensively. So.
All right, Jerel, I mean, we've been going for a while, but I just got a couple more fun questions for you before we get out of here. First of all, you mentioned time at Humphrey and stuff. Me and my boys, I know we played college basketball video game all the time, and they don't have that anymore, which pisses me off. We had some good times playing that college basketball game with the recruiting function and all that. Did you guys play that?
We had it set up. Let me tell you how serious it was. I had my Xbox in my room. We had the college basketball game. They had a function in there because it just the NCAA doesn't let you use the likenesses or whatever of the players, right. But it looks exactly like you with the same number, same accessories, just no name. So we used to go into the function and edit the players. I used to take a night. This is how serious I was. I used to take a night. One night we had an off night and I wouldn't have nothing to do the next day, and I'd stay up all night and I would try to go through every roster in NCAA and change those guys' numbers to their actual names. So as many players that I had played against that I could name, I would go through each and every team and I would try to give them names. So our team obviously had all the names, so it was really cool for us. And then I had 4 controllers and me, Maurice, Dwight. And sometimes we used to add in Wes or somebody else, whoever else wanted to play. We would do we would all play on the same team and go through the season, play like the season for the Marquette Eagles or whatever, and play together on the same team and just try to see how the season would turn out and make it as far as we could. So yeah, this is what we did in some of our spare time. But you're right, man. Those college games were special. The basketball and the football, I don't know, they were always really fun to play.
I got to tell you, what you just described, we were doing probably like a mile away in O'Donnell for our freshman year. Like the exact same thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They would have it lined up where it'd be like one guy would be playing all night. You wake up and it'd be like 3 seasons later. You're like, damn. Like,
I mean, what happened, man? It's 2016, huh? Yeah, that's crazy. You've been up all night, huh? Yep.
So, like Pete said, we got to wrap up here in just a couple of minutes, but we have we have a list of a few rapid fire questions that we thought it'd be fun to go out on. All right, so here we go. The speed round of questions with Jerel McNeal. Okay, first question. Your favorite player to come out of Chicago, not named Jerel McNeal?
Favorite player to come out of Chicago. Oh, man, that's a tough one. So many good ones. I'm going to go Isaiah Thomas. All right. Old school.
During your time at Marquette, the toughest individual opponent that you had to guard?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Yeah, I'll tell you one person who always he gave me a handful that freshman year as well, and this is obviously due to inexperience. So I actually got a chance to play with him a little bit in the NBA for a while. Randy Foy from Villanova. Mm-hmm. Man, he was tough, man. Those guys had a lot of guard power as well, and it was a fun matchup to play against them. But as far as him, like, oh man, what in college, it was nothing he couldn't do. He could dribble, he could pass, he could shoot, he could finish at the rim. Like, yeah, he gave me a couple buckets, which I'm still not pleased about. Like I said, I got a chance to play with him a little bit later down the line when I was with Utah with the Jazz. So great guy though, man, really good player.
So you, Dominique, and Wesley all walk into a bar together. Who's coming out with the girl?
Is this? Hold on. Okay, so we gotta get a time frame on this one. Is it current time or is it?
I want to know senior year.
You can't factor in Wesley's millions.
Yeah,
man.
I want to know
that's cheap.
senior year. You're in the middle of your senior year, maybe the summer before your senior year, and in that time frame.
Oh,
Ladybug Club.
It's easy. It's Neek. Neek is coming out for sure. It's a no-brainer. Yeah, he was gonna win. I wouldn't have competed. I would have fell back and watched them go at it. Wes probably would have been mad at Neek because they would have been butting heads and they was roommates anyway. So if he came out with the girl, he was probably gonna have to hear about it later on back at the room. So
last one. What is the best during your time at Marquette? What's the best Jerel McNeal heat check game that you can remember?
Ooh. Oh, that's an easy one. I can't remember whether it was junior or senior year. That's how I know I'm getting old. I used to be able to call this stuff out like and pinpoint it. We played Cincinnati at home though, 7 for 7 for 3.
I think that was your senior year. It was a huge win.
Yeah. We ended up blowing the doors off of the game like in the second half, like later on in the second half. But yeah, I thought it was. I think it was some type of record, or I tied some type of record with it. But I'm sure when they look at the record books, they wouldn't be expecting me to be in there for a 3-point shooting record. But hey, it happened.
I think we'd like to have you back to talk about the international game and some of that kind of stuff too. But you kind of been around different places, NBA, D League, international. What's been your favorite place you've visited or lived in?
Oh man, I'll probably go somewhere international just because it's so different. So
right.
The spot I'm in now is pretty nice. Tel Aviv is nice. I've got a chance to play. Last year I played EuroLeague, so I've got a chance to visit a lot of really, really nice cities, man, in all kind of different countries. But my favorite probably would be the year I played in Greece in Thessaloniki. Thessaloniki is like the second biggest city in Greece. It's north of Athens, and Athens is like the main attraction. That's where all the stuff is. It's like that's farther south in Greece. But Thessaloniki is a special place, man. I absolutely loved it living there, man. Beautiful country, great food, man. Great culture. It was a blast, man. It was a special year for me in my career. I really enjoyed playing there and just really living there, man. That's a place where it's like, okay, this is really like a fortunate place to be and playing at and living at right now for 10 months at a time, even if it is. So,
Jerel, thanks so much for taking time out of your schedule. So it's getting late there, but you're a night owl in Tel Aviv. Thanks so much for joining the show. We really appreciate you joining.
Man, thank you guys so much for having me. It was a pleasure, man. I'd love to come back anytime and talk to you guys some more. I really appreciate it.
All right, folks, that's going to do it for our conversation with MU great Jerel McNeal. We hope you enjoyed this as much as we did. Definitely something that we hope we can bring you more in the future, conversations with former players. Thanks again to Jerel for taking time out of his schedule to join us. For everyone here at the Real Chili Podcast, everyone that puts in work, I'm your host, Mike Lavender. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next time here on the Real Chili Podcast.